Hello and welcome to the Think Bamboo podcast, the show where we unpack the personal and professional growth journeys from some of the most interesting minds in marketing and business. And today we have none other than Byron Koller. Byron, for those that are unfamiliar with you, would you like to give yourself a little introduction?
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. Thanks for having me. My name's Byron. I've been in and around the marketing world for a very long time. Grew up in South Africa with a background in creative and communication, and then a spanning career of design into marketing, and now co-founder at Fuse, built primarily around customer engagement marketing, lifecycle marketing, and working with a lot of clients to help them deliver against their objectives.
See, I like that you mentioned there about the start of where you came from to where you've kind of at now, which kind of, I want to just launch straight into that first question that I've got for you, is that you started off in design, and now I don't want to say it's a pivot, but you've been able to transition over to this world of growth marketing and engineering and working with Braze. Where was that moment or series of events or realization that you were wanting to move slightly out of design into where you are now?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of an interesting journey to get to where I've got to. And I can actually give you a little bit of, before that even, I started my studies in psychology and social work and sociology in South Africa. I even did law for about 5 minutes, but that was not for me. But I was very interested in the human mind, the ways of thinking, sociology particularly, the development of us as a society, human race, all that. It was really, really interesting, and I loved doing that. I completed my first year, though, and then realized I probably wasn't going to be a psychologist. And then pivoted for the first time in my life entirely away from that into graphic design and visual communication.
Right.
Which, yeah, in hindsight seems a bit odd. What drew me to it, though, was the practicality and the outcomes you get from doing it, that may be a bit more immediate than thinking of a degree in psychology and what that looks like. So what I liked was this, maybe a little bit of a bias for action that I'll talk a bit more about in other topics. But I think that was one of the things. But it threw me into a world I was very uncomfortable in, which is another thing that I seem to do quite often, because I went into a sort of foundational year of fine art. So I was doing pottery to painting to everything, right? And only as you go through the degree does it become much more focused to graphic design, visual arts, and then the communication piece, which is there where it started to then make sense in a marketing world. So at that time, it was, I can't remember the dates, but internet marketing and email marketing was coming to the forefront. So part of that design and communication piece then focused on building websites and building email designs and creatives. And that's where I really started getting interested in that. And it was back in the days of Dreamweaver, where you'd be coding on one side, see an output on the other. So again, that quick gratification, maybe that's why I like that kind of thing. You're doing something, you see it outputted and it's created. So I really like that. But then I took that degree and moved from South Africa to the UK into a creative department in an agency environment. And then it was very much about now client delivery and changing a lot of things for what clients want to see in the design world, right? And that's where I started to build up a bit of frustration about being kind of the guy at the end of the line, just being told what to do. I didn't really like that so much. So I was like, well, I'd rather be the guy directing some of this and then saying like how things should be, because I've got my own opinions on that. And that's where it started to shift more towards like the marketing world, and took me in that direction. A few other things around that time that actually helped sort of mold it was getting into a sort of lecturing capacity around digital marketing. This happened a little bit later in the Middle East, which we'll talk about as well. But through that really opened the door and got me solidly into like the marketing world, and then a few other opportunities that helped, I think, scale that quickly. And now here I am after many years of working in many marketing roles, to effectively running a business with my co-founder, and that is now a very interesting place to live in. So that's kind of the very short journey of how I went from there to this.
It's I wish I'd known that about the psychology part, all of that, because that's like for marketing. I think it's so you need to know people. You need to, and that's the whole point of to me anyway, like audience research, about understanding that, like, who is it that you're talking to? What is their pain point? Why should they care? Like the so what of everything, and kind of getting behind all the fluff of it. And so why I say that is, so I did a degree in drama, in acting, right? And so like it sounds quite tenuous, but I've brought it into to marketing in some way. And the reason why I say that is because one of the exercises that we used to do is understand, like, what is the intention behind each line? Like, what are you actually trying to say? Are they being upfront behind it? What's the subtext behind it? Like, behind that? And so it's the clarity of your message. Are you saying one thing but actually doing something else? What does that, like, I'm bringing that there. So when I ever looked at messaging from either a client or something that we're creating, I go, how direct can we be so that there is no, like, you can't read anything else into it. It's just got to be like, this is what we're saying, this is what you do. There can be no misinterpretation. And then also when you're working with other people, it's understanding, like, social cues, what or little tics that people have, or I can go like, okay, I'm not convinced that they're maybe telling me the whole story here. What else can I get out of them? How can we so let's go there. There's another exercise that I think I've spoken about this on another episode as well, but I loved it. It was one of my favorite things. Whereas how you can change the energy in a room by how you enter and how you sit, and that way, and it was like suddenly you can get a different perception from people, whether you want to become friendly, if you want to be a little bit formidable, if you're coming to the situation, which I more often than not in my early 30s, if I was going to like a boardroom and I'm realizing, like, look, I'm the youngest guy here by quite a long shot. I've got to set up that precedent and that perception that he does know what he's talking about. There's got to be a little bit of machoism, like however you want to perceive that. But I had to learn, like, no, if you walk in like this and you sit like that, then they're going to look at you a certain way, and you've already won a little bit of the mental battles. And that's what I'm thinking about, that psychology and that sociology part, where you can bring that into marketing and get the external benefits. Like, I find that absolutely fascinating from that there. And so you mentioned earlier that you went over to Dubai. And one of the things that I love when I talk about our guests that have experienced, like, different cultures, like from South Africa to Dubai to the UK, is when they go to other places where they're working their professional life, is what can they learn there that they wouldn't have been able to learn or experience in their homeland or the UK. So you spent quite a lot of or a fair bit of your time in Dubai with a company called Cabone. And is that something you can expand upon, about what is something you could experience only in Dubai that you couldn't have experienced or learned in either South Africa or the UK?
Yeah, an interesting time of my life. A good one. So this was, as I said, after formative years in South Africa. Grew up there, did my studies, moved to the UK, worked here for about 3 or 4 years in an agency environment with creative turning into marketing, and then got the opportunity to go and join this startup, Cabon, which was built on a Groupon business model. So coupons for experiences and offers and things in your town or city. Amazing time to be doing that. So, like, a few key things come to mind. Growing up in South Africa, and the climate there feels very, like, opportunistic and, like, self-driven. So entrepreneurial in the sense where, like, there's not that much welfare or support from the state. You have to do your own thing. You make your own way. You've got to create your own success. So I think I've had that as maybe being quite formative years. Then come into the UK, and my mom's from here, so always kind of understood British culture, UK, living in Scotland at the moment. My mom's from England. But yeah, a very different environment than South Africa, and felt like obviously a lot more infrastructure, structure, and support and welfare things to get you started. A lot of a lot more structure around that. There's almost a security and safety that exists. So that was a perception I had at the time, and then got this opportunity in Dubai, and then it felt like it flipped back again, where it was another world of opportunity, and very much it is what you make of it situation. Like it felt like the place you could go and kind of maybe from an acting background, you go in and you can recreate, you can reinvent, you can go and be
Yeah, yeah.
whatever you're going to be there, right? No one knows you, no one, it is what you're going to make of it. So that was the energy that was around at the time. I was also yet to be married, no kids, very much like full of all the anticipation that could come with the new adventure. So I think one thing was just the context and perspective was important. And then at the time, it was around what was known as the Arab Spring then, and it was things kicking off in Egypt that brought a lot of people online through at that time. I think Facebook was considered the internet for a lot of people in that region where there was a lot of inaccessibility to these things and everything else. And in an online business like Kabon, we really rode that wave. We launched it in Dubai because it's very city based, it's local experience and activities, and branched out and launched in Egypt and in Saudi and in other parts in the Middle East. So that made my adventure get bigger. I spent quite a bit of time visiting Egypt and Saudi, and um, it just it just continued to feel like it was what you made of it, and all the opportunity was there, and that there wasn't like a container or a box that you're working within. It was more just like this can get as big, broad, different, or interesting as you want it to be. That was the first feeling. So while I would say it was an entrepreneurial kind of role, it was very much investor led. We had money. This was a team execute, but you got the freedom
Mm-hmm.
and you got the ability to then do that. And I think that's where that I that was a big shift from being in the UK in a much more stable, formalized role in an agency doing a thing. It was like a job. This felt like the next thing beyond that.
Yeah.
And that was fantastic. And I did a few kind of startups around the Middle East while I was there. And then, but never like fully owned on my own type of thing. And now with Warwick, my co-founder, and launching Fuse 3 years ago, is now like feel like that's like not the end. It's the beginning of a new journey, but of like proper ownership. We've done this on our own. We're not taking any funding. Trying to build a profitable business. Trying to hire cool people. Build a nice culture. And that's been really, really cool and really nice to do with all this sort of experience and these different perspectives from being at different places in the world. So I think that's it. Like the opportunity and the opportunistic nature of what you feel it could be, I think was probably the most important thing.
I like that. There's with all the different experiences that you have, I found that like within my own journey, like I've been mostly client side. I started off in agency side, went client side, came back client side again, sort of flip flopped a little bit between the two, and some of the things I've had to unlearn. Like when I get to a certain place and I go like, things are like this, I'm like, no, it's not. It's not like that. You've got to adapt. This is the way that you thought it was is not how it is here. And you might have had two or three experiences that made you think that it was like that, but that's not it for everywhere. Which is sounds obvious, but when you spent 10 years of one experience, then go somewhere else and go, it's completely different. And then you set up a business, and then you realize it's the Wild West, and you've got to make your own rules and everything that comes with that. You've set up Fuse 3 years ago with Warwick, and we'll get into Warwick in a little bit. That sounds really sinister. No, we're just going to talk about how awesome it is. So, what was it when you set up Fuse? And I suppose like when you set up and what you've learned over the last 3 years, what's the biggest thing you've had to unlearn from like your journey so far to get there, in order to make either like Fuse a success, but to have your own personal growth as well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. Difficult to articulate like one or two things, but like I'll just talk about the experience, and then I'll probably some things will come to me. But but certainly going from that idea where there was so much freedom and opportunity in the Middle East, and trying to like sort of utilize that and make the most of all of it. And then transitioning to your own company, I mentioned the idea of us being like an investor-led sort of startups that I've been involved
Yep.
with. So I feel like there's a safety net, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And now we certainly didn't have one. That was probably the biggest change, where it was just had a bit of savings between us. So we knew it'd get us through a few months without any clients, but we very quickly had to win some clients. We had to win some business. We had to get money back into an account to keep going, and that felt pretty raw and quite a change in thinking, because you don't have enough capital behind you.
Yep.
It's that you're building your runway as you're going. That was like probably the first thing. But still, with this great sense of anticipation and excitement and opportunity, that was very much still there. But with a new level of anxiety that, oh, what if it doesn't work out? So that for sure. And then managing those anxieties, and I'll say, I think without a co-founder, and it needs to be a good co-founder, but I think to do that on your own, like completely on your own, I don't think I would have been able to do it. I think that'd be one of the most difficult things. So I think there's, and I work well in partnership. I think I like that idea of like it's even in our name, Fuse Growth Studio. We named it with this idea of this studio type environment. We thought we'd just like collaborate and partner with and build cool stuff, and that was the sort of like softer, fluffier side of it. Also, we had to put more words on to make a name that had a domain or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, um,
To
yeah.
give you
So
an
that
idea of like where I came from with that, like whenever I'm thinking about a like things to unlearn, because I'm always interested in founders and where they come from to where I've got to, is that one of the things that I didn't unlearn at, I think, Bambu. It was much later in my career, where it was a management style, where I'd realized that the way that I had been managed was definitely a lot more transactional, and that you do this, you do a good job, we'll reward you, and that's it. And so I was like, okay, that's what it is. A manager is not there to like grow you in any sense. I'd heard about that. I'd heard about it, but I'd never experienced it. Not really. It was just, hey, you did a good job. Okay, you can do the job. We're going to give you more jobs to do. And I go, right, okay, cool. And it was only I maybe about a year into my career where I worked at a place called Aegon, and it was a man called Kevin Carter, where he was way more transformational. He wanted to get to know, like, hey, who are you? You're engaged. Tell me about your fiance. Tell me about where you grew up. What that, and he took the time to get to know me. And there suddenly I was like, and it was the first time it like, sorry to all the companies I'd worked for before, a sense of loyalty. Where I was like, oh, I really care about doing a good job. Not like, yes, for Aegon, but for Kevin. It's like, I really care about doing a good job here because I want to make him look good, and all the rest of that there. And I realized I was like, oh, that's a management style that I want to take. I don't want to become someone's best friend or anything like that, but I absolutely want to learn about what drives them so that I can do the best job for them, help them grow, find their gaps that way. Because someone else, like, that's how I found that, and that's where I had to like unlearn that for a while, because then I would go into another managerial job and I'd go jump straight back into that. This is transactional. I'm like, no, it's not. It doesn't have to be that way. You've felt it the other way, and it was wonderful. So that's where I come from, like unlearning different habits.
no, that's really good. A good example of what I would talk about, like mentorship, that is now
Yep.
something that has become very important as we've grown the team. And then also, when you have a business with people in it, you realize the business is no more than the people and the team that you have. And like, yeah, to do that on a transactional management basis probably wouldn't work out so well. So
No.
I think it's something we're doing fairly well, and that human side of it, and getting to know the people that we're hiring. And I think we touched on it in a little while about this digital age we live in. We're obviously fully remote. So how do you build those connections? How do you keep everyone enthused and actually turning up? Literally and figuratively, because they're just on a laptop most of the time.
Yeah, so I mean that's we both got those challenges ahead, and like I've tried many different ways, and in fact latest thing is we do have to get together in person. I do think that's important there. But there's little fun things. Like I've tried to do little quizzes and stuff there. I've got like I'm a terrible quiz host. My quizzes aren't that hard. I've fallen to this pattern of the same kind of questions. I really enjoy Spotify type questions of guess what song has got the most streams from this person, and they go like, oh, I wonder which one. And they go like, oh, and which one is the big song? Everyone's like, is that the hit? I'm like, well, actually, the fans like this one. You're clearly not a Mariah Carey fan because this is the big one. Yeah, those types of things. I want to. So we mentioned Fuse. I want to get into this here because one of the parts that you put in the sort of sounds like the value, the ethos of Fuse. I'd like to know a little bit how that works with Byron. So I've got it written here just so I don't mess it up because I've got a tendency to switch words around and get them muddled. And that is start anywhere, go everywhere. Now, with that, how have you? Well, there's a few things like what does that mean? Does it matter what it means, or is it just like is it a philosophy that you follow that you can be interpreted in different ways? How have you taken that phrase and incorporated that into either Fuse but also as Byron? What does it mean to you?
I think it comes. It came from me and Warwick, I suppose, together. But for me, it definitely speaks to something I mentioned about this bias for action, and the idea that like you might not know exactly what you're going to get at the end, but if you don't start, you're not going to get anything. And something I've personally had to get better at is almost a fear of just starting, because you can get stuck in terms of a work environment, you're stuck into the strategy and thinking behind things for so long. But sometimes if you just start doing it, that's the thing that you need to really get into it, whatever it is, the problem you're trying to solve, the opportunity you're trying to unlock, the hurdle you're trying to overcome, whatever it is. So that was like more on the personal side, that as long as you start, you can then go anywhere from there. But if you don't start, you're not going to get anywhere, I suppose. And then we think in this in the business sense, kind of translates quite well in particularly like the idea of customer engagement marketing and CRM and customer life cycle. Thinking of that, it can be so like daunting and intimidating of all the things you can do. And God knows, the more AI tools that are available to get everything done, it just feels like every day you wake up, there's a new one and a new thing you've got to try to get your head around and a new way to think of things. But then you really have to double down and just keep experimenting and trying and doing these things. So whilst it might be easy to be intimidated by or overwhelmed by all the stuff that's going on, the best thing I still find is to turn up and start doing something. That that's very much been one of our ethos, is like just turning up and starting. You're already probably doing better than a lot of people that aren't doing that. Yeah, all you're doing is turning up.
And have you got an example of where you had to like in startup land, like you kind of have to just do those that are sitting there thinking about doing, someone's already done it now before you. That's been my experience of guys, not just start without a little bit of thought, but we don't have the luxury of, hey, let's think about this and launch it in 6 months. You're like, no,
Yeah.
we've kind of got to do something. Have you got an experience of that that's happened to you with Fuse?
I think it's oftentimes also driven by quite tight deadlines from clients, right? So there's no other way but to just start doing it, and then we are kind of figuring it out as we go along. So that's like on the client side. But what's been more, as you said, like entrepreneur founder, we wear many hats. We've got to do all the things. Like accounting is not my strong suite. That is not something that we're good at. I know there's good ways and the right ways of doing things in terms of invoicing and running all of these systems and frameworks, but we didn't do that. We just did it. And now I'm getting a financial assistant and bookkeepers to come and start to do it properly. And that's maybe a silly one because you have to do that. Like you have to start transacting and doing stuff. But like you could talk yourself out of doing a lot of things if you don't just start getting them done. So I'll answer with one more like about these oncome of AI tools and everything that we've, because that's been happening as we've been starting a business, and it's been massively helpful. And also, but probably the biggest thing where you've got to just literally get in and start doing it, because no one else, that is one thing that no one else is really doing yet. There's very good reason that no one really has written up, you know, how to use AI, right? Everyone's still trying to catch up. The bigger the organizations, the more difficult that must be. Imagine trying to give, you know, your 5,000 staff access to GPT and say, don't break anything, please. Or like, like that's, I don't know how you'd, like that to me is like mind boggling. And to try and move something that big at the pace that AI is developing, we have a luxury of, you know, a handful of people that we can control and make up our policies as we go and make sure that we're
Yep, yep.
doing the best we know at the time, right? Because we can be flexible, we can work with it. So that's, yeah, that's probably matched our start anyway kind of rhetoric. The best is AI.
That's a really good example, and we've had to do I guess when you say start anywhere, we've tried to start with a little bit of like coach us first, and like we've gone in and I've been able to break a few things. That was great fun because you've got to say like, how far am I going to push this? Others have been able to build and all that rest of that there. And then I've gone, okay, we need to start somewhere. I would like us all to have the same terminology, like the same language when we're talking about things, because there's some in the team that are really well versed in it and others that are going, well, it doesn't touch me, or at least like looking at Claude and the amount that can do, instead of only looking at it in like just the lens of your job, look at the lens of how it can impact others, how can it do for efficiencies and the rest of that. And that start anywhere was, okay, let's all get us on the same playing field to start with, rather than you know, Andrew's got a 60-yard head start because his job naturally went that way compared to so and so who's maybe not. Now, just I want to start on that just because we're talking about technology and AI, and I want to sort of almost rephrase the question now that I know that you've got a background in psychology and sociology, but it's maybe still quite pertinent. Is so fews are like you're certified with Braze. You're a Braze partner there. Where have you found the importance of human connection in a business that is primarily digital? I know you just went to an exhibition there as well, and like mingling with the Braze partners as well, and Braze themselves and clients there, and knowing your background now, or more about your background, where have you found? Sorry, there's so many questions that are coming in that I'm thinking, actually, I'm going to whittle this down and ignore the background there as if I didn't know that. Where have you found, with the way that Fuse works just now, the importance of having human connection in a digital first business?
Yeah, that's I think it's become more relevant and more poignant as we are today, and that goes going back to COVID. I think changed everything in the first place because everyone started working at home, and everyone got remote and started doing quizzes online,
Yes.
and used to, yeah. I still got a bit of PTSD from joining some like group thing. So you're trying to like socialize at your laptop. So you know you're doing a pub quiz with a beer at your desk, and it's like this is just very weird. But that's what it was. Couldn't leave your house, whatever. But anyways, that was a big thing that happened. And then for us particularly, I would find it our customer base as well. This is worth saying, I guess. So from our network collective, myself and Warwick, and our history and background from South Africa to the Middle East, and that a lot of our initial business came from the Middle East and South Africa. So we found ourselves in a bizarre situation where we were Edinburgh based, sitting in Scotland, two guys, two South Africans, albeit, but our clients being in the Middle East from like connections that we had there and everything, and relationships we built, to South Africa again through relationships and connections we had there. So there we are sitting, you know, and it's like at a point it was like we better get on a plane and go see some of our customers because that's still super important. So that's it. We went off to South Africa in that instance, and now, you know, that 2-3 years on has become such a hub for us in that we actually have employees and even more business and clients in South Africa. And the reason we are proactively hiring on the ground is to service those clients on the ground. And it's often why we're winning business. Being local, understanding the culture and the market and everything that's happening, and being able to go around and sit with our clients in their office is so important. And more of them are asking more and more of that, I think. And I think that's just a trend. Like people are now like probably quite lonely and want to see other people in real life, whether they know it or not. And there has been a pandemic that drove this, but you can see it without getting totally off track. Like I've got a daughter who was born in that time. Now she's a COVID baby, and anytime she's a bit antisocial, we can blame COVID. It's like, oh yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's cool.
yeah.
See people for a long time, but there is definitely truth and a reality in that. And I think, and then us as adults and people that worked a way and then changed completely, like it would be so foreign for me to have to turn up in an office now, like 9 to 5, sitting somewhere. I don't know how I would cope with that. Yet there is a definite void there that needs
Yeah,
to
yeah.
that we still need this to happen. So I think the world just becomes a smaller place in that sense. You can be chatting online one day and be in another country the next, and having a coffee or whatever in person. It's quite easy compared to a long time ago. So yeah.
Well, talking about that human connection here, I'd like to bring up Warwick, who you've mentioned a few times as your co-founder with Fuse. Now, there are going to be other founders, SMEs that are watching this and possibly pondering the idea of partnering with others to grow what they both mutually got. I would love to know your take, and you don't have to throw Warwick under the bus here or anything at all. I think it's actually going to be something quite nice. I'd love to know your thoughts on with starting Fuse and growing it to where it is today. What have been one of the more challenging and rewarding aspects of growing a business with a co-founder?
Yeah, it's probably going to be a bit more warm and fuzzy. Good old Warwick, good guy. So I think that I said it earlier that whether Warwick or anyone, I think the idea of trying to do any of this completely as a sole entrepreneur on your own is like hats off to anyone who can do that. I think it's so difficult. And I say that just from like, you inevitably meet hurdles along the way. And like, I imagine on your own without someone else to at least go through the tougher times with, it would be so easy just to sort of pack it in, like, and be like, oh, well, I should probably just get a job. That probably would have happened many times over, I think, if we weren't doing this together. And we've even had conversations about that very thing where it's just like, maybe we should just go get jobs, and then you kind of talk each other out of it. And it's like, no, let's keep going. Cool. So that's been really good. Given that Em and I have known each other for many years, we go way back. We worked together in the Middle East as well. We in fact went to high school together in South Africa. So. And we've both experienced lots of things around all the world and come together at different times in our journey, working together, done a couple of other startups that didn't work in our youth and things like that. So we've been on this journey. So then comes the old adage of like, I wouldn't go into business with friends. That's probably good advice, but in this particular example, it's been really positive. I think we've taken all the positives from it, and that is the aspect of trust. And we'll talk a bit about this, and we were earlier when you're building a team and hiring people and trying to get people on this mission with you. This idea of trust is pretty much the only thing that really matters. And in Warwick as a co-founder, I know like that's never even a thing that's in question. So it's like you don't even have to think about it because I just know. And the predictability of it, I've got to know him quite well. I know what's going to happen. I think, there's a security and a trust there that just you're then not spending energy second guessing, wondering, thinking about like, thinking about the politics, thinking about, that I've seen in other. Of course, it's that, right? But like when it's that, I know, I just know what the baseline is. So you don't have to worry about that. So you can put your energy into other things. I think some of the challenging sides have been, we both come from a very similar background, right? So we're both in marketing bit of technology understanding, both very interested in using this AI stuff that's coming out, so that's cool. But like, it's not like one of us is an accountant and one's in marketing, or one's in tech and one's in marketing. So
Right. Yeah.
in the fact that we've both been very similar, we've probably had some pretty big gaps early on that we're starting to realize and look at, and I think we're mature enough to acknowledge and be like, cool, we probably need to get some third party here, or like some advisorship from people. And luckily, we've got a good network between both of us. So we've got some really smart people, and are vulnerable enough to go to them and say, we don't know what we're doing here. Could you help us?
Mm.
So yeah, I think even those things where we being able to identify the weaknesses and challenges is really good, and then being vulnerable enough to speak about them. I think there's no sense in a bravado of just like pretending like you know what you're doing. There's a lot of that, but like together we pretend we know what we're doing, but not to one another, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like there's an honesty there that actually then I think brings quite a lot of like uh, an authenticity to what we're doing, and I think that's quite important to me as well. I know that we are in the world of marketing, which is inherently full of fluff. I think you referenced earlier, which
Mm-hmm.
it's not lost on me. So I
Yeah.
really like to look for the actual value that we're delivering. And you know what I've landed on is the fact that with our small team of growing people, that's the thing that's important. Those people, I feel like we're helping give them an opportunity to come and do the things they're really good at doing. And if we can get really good people and get out of their way
Mm-hmm.
and build something that can do that, that's what I think is important, or what I take a lot of pride in doing, I think.
I love what you said there about vulnerability and being in a environment where that's not deemed as weakness. Because I've like in other companies that I've been part of, even just to say like, hey, like I'm not really sure what we're doing here. It's like, well, why would you say that? You're absolutely risking your job. You've risked your credibility here. You've risked all of that, right? We're not going to trust, or we're not going to trust you anymore. When I'm thinking, actually, I'd much rather someone's like, okay, if it's their job to know, then they probably should know. But also, like, don't no one knows everything, right? There's going to be some blind spots. There's going to be some gaps, and I guess it depends on the person. I've met more that, or I've had more experiences where that would have been not ridiculed, but like noted. Okay, ceiling on this person here, rather than okay, they've highlighted that. How can we either help them, or are other people not knowledgeable about this, and we've got a blind spot in our company, or what does that look like, and how can we help grow this together? And like, if we've got a co-founder that can be your yin to your yang that way, then that's worth its weight in gold. Um, Byron, thank you so much for your time here. I am aware of the time and all of that stuff. So I'd like to jump ahead to the questions that I tend to ask everybody that comes onto the podcast, and one of them is to go back to your first day in your professional life and going through okay, knowing everything that you know now about the journey and the ups and downs. What guidance would you give back to baby Byron?
Yeah, it's a tough kind of question. You've obviously given it to me before, and I've obviously read it, and I obviously
Mm.
don't have a very solid answer. But uh, I, it's interesting because of how things have been so different for you. We're talking about a role in a creative department in an agency where I joined
Mm-hmm.
basically fresh out of like graduating, um, and and being like very nervous and just like yeah, so unsure of everything, right? But but I think yourself to like take it easy a bit. Enjoy the journey that you're on then. Like that's probably the most important thing. I think everyone gets caught up in trying to achieve the next thing and doing this and this and this and that. Um, and that's like inherent. You're going to evolve and grow and get to there. But like I think enjoying more or getting more out of what you're doing at that time, and sort of like slowing down a bit in that sense,
Mm-hmm.
to also then like get a bit deeper on that one thing you're doing, I think it's something I try and do for myself now, even is like, there's so many millions of things going on. I'm always in fear of doing the million things all kind of good, but not that great. Whereas I would rather prioritize, narrow down, and do a few things better. And I was talking to someone on the team about that today, about that very thing. And she's saying, like, telling me like, cool, just getting very close to capacity, and it's the context switching that is the challenge, right? She could just keep doing, like, she's really smart, really efficient, deliver, but like, switching context and then therefore doing those things well is what starts to drop off. And this is such a rambling answer, but then you think of AI in that world, and like that's now helping everything go even faster.
Yeah.
But then but then we also know that then that's so much stuff done by machines and AI that you've got to check that stuff. You've got to put the thinking in behind it. And so I do think you can move a lot faster and use all your agents to do all your things, but you don't want to just be too shallow on all of it.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of this deep thinking, and getting really involved or immersed in a topic or subject or a problem or whatever it is. So right back to that, I'll tell myself that, probably do that thing because I was pretty stressed then, and just doing all the stuff and just be like, cool, just focus on this thing, get really good at that thing, and then keep going. There's a lot of pressure to do a lot of things all the time.
I distinctly remember that at my first job, where there was or like first job in marketing, where it was like choose your specialism, but then at the same time here are all the other things that you need to know. And I was kind of like, oh my goodness, like I haven't even got like a handle on this part yet. How am I can't think of I can't think of the relationship to this thing, 6 degrees of separation here at this point. I need to get good at this, and then I can see about the relationships between all of that. Yeah, give me the top level, but that challenge of here are 8 channels, and we've given you 6 months. We need you to be an expert in all of them. And I'm going, that like what? Like even at best, if you're giving me like 3 to 6 weeks here, if anyone said, hey, how good are you at this? Yeah, I've got 4 weeks experience, to go, well then no, you're probably not the person for us. But yeah, there was a lot of that in my mid-20s, which was yeah, quite a lot. I can relate to that pressure. Well, here, wherever anybody gets to a career, especially the level of like a founder and someone like running a successful business, you've mentioned quite a few people that you said like, hey, you've worked with people over in the East, Middle East, sorry, and over in South Africa that you've been able to get referrals from to help grow Fuse, lots of startups that you've been a part of. I can already start seeing like the journey that you've gone on to get to where you are today. Outside of Warwick, though you may want to thank Warwick, is there anybody like want to give like a kudos or a thanks to for getting to you to where you are?
Yep, professionally, Warwick is on the list. There's a few other sort of managers and other people I've worked with where I've had moments of like, yeah, that's really cool and everything, and some really, really good chats. But I'd probably mention my dad, and now that's non-professionally speaking though.
Yeah.
Like, but through his life, he has been a beekeeper, a house painter, a lighthouse keeper, a harbor master, sailed around the world on a tall ship, and been a marketing director as well. Point is, that sense of entrepreneurial spirit, I think, has come from him. Obviously, never worked together. He's my dad, but I think so much of that I've applied to how I perceive work as part of your life. And it's interesting to be able to compartmentalize things, actually, and I think it's very important too. And now I'm at like the farthest end of what work is, because now work is my life, because it's the thing I've founded and it's entirely up to me and Warwick to make it work or not. But it's still work as well. That may be a bit contradictory, but yeah, I'll give a shout out to my dad, I think, and that sense of adventure and entrepreneurial spirit that he obviously had, that maybe got a little bit of, hopefully.
No, I love that. I love that. My dad was, if anyone said like, "Hey, Jamie, who do you think?" My dad would be number one on the list because he was the one that, there's a little bit of me that goes like, you don't need to have, like, I like to have belief in yourself founded in some sort of credibility, but my dad was always like, "No, you can do it. Absolutely, you can do it. Just like that, start anywhere." He's like, "Well, you're definitely not going to do it if you don't try. So you may as well do it." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And he said, like, some stuff, I mean, there were some things where he said, "Okay, you've given it a go. Maybe don't do that again. You're not very good at that." I was like, "Okay, thanks." And I loved that honesty from him. He'd always say it in like a jovial way, but if for anyone that knew him, if he said, "Hey, maybe not for you," he's telling you that was really bad and you should definitely not do that. Well, here, what is next for Byron? What is next for Fuse? Where can people find you?
Find me at home in Edinburgh, in my
Yes.
home office. Yeah, no, very much here. But no, I think we're growing, we're scaling. Toward the end of last year, things felt like it really sort of like clicked with a lot of what we're doing. We've got a bit better at sort of devising our service offerings and figuring out what we're actually doing and how we're driving growth through like a flywheel of onboarding through a lot of partnership with Braze. You've mentioned them. They're our biggest partner, where we do integration work and professional services around Braze, which is really at the core of what we do. And we've hired some really smart people that are helping us expand those service areas. And like I said, hire good people and get out of their way. That's probably a good sort of thing that we're thinking of doing. And yeah, really just want to build a very nice, profitable business with a good culture and good people, and see what the future holds. I think just trying to just keep it that way is the plan. So yeah, if anyone wants to work at Fuse, give me a shout. And if you need any help with Braze, our tagline, we have a new one every now and then, but now it's "We make Braze sing." So
Nice.
if you think you can get the best out of it, you can probably get more. We can help unlock that value, and enjoying to see how Braze is releasing more and more features and all the new stuff you can do in customer engagement. Least of all with all their AI tools and everything else, and integrating different softwares into Braze. The opportunities are basically endless. So really exciting.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time, Byron. And thank you, the viewer/listener, depending on how you're getting this and how you're digesting it. I really appreciate you for the time that you continue to give this podcast. Really grateful for it. And Byron, thank you once again. I will see you soon, and over and out from here.